Ahoy toy, welcome to Transfix, the channel that identifies as a wildly popular toy channel with millions of subscribers. Sadly, that doesn't make it so. But on the subject of gender bending, I have a custom to show today, which you know because you read the title. But I've been filling out my Action Toys Machine Robo collection with and trying to customize those characters into GoBots. I've got previous videos of Leader 1 and Sidekill being customized, and boy, seeing them all together, I really notice how wild the scale is all over the place. But anyway, what we really need for Sidekill's Renegades band is a Coptour and a Crasher. And I have made Ricochet into my Crasher. She's a little large and in charge to be in that crew, but that's okay. I think it's a good enough match. There's been previous homages to Crasher in other toys. DX9 did their Kokomon in a... Is it Kokomon? They had their Mirage figure that they redecoed into Crasher, and I didn't even know that that's what they were doing at the time. Hasbro even did it. They did their Mirage in a redeco into Fracture, and again, the reference eluded me at the time. I didn't know they were referring to Crasher from the GoBots. I didn't even know at that time that they had the license to use GoBots characters. So anyway, and I wasn't really into GoBots at the time. Now I am, and yeah, I've done this. So the reason I did this was because I wanted a Crasher. And I was actually reluctant to take on the project because, just talking a bit about this character, I'm using the Ricochet toy for the base of this custom. And I actually quite like that toy. I collect mostly Masterpiece, so Jazz is represented in my shelf with the Make Toys Downbeat, which is a really great figure. So there's no reason for me to get the Power of the Primes version of Jazz, although the mold was intriguing because it did look like, a Le Mans racing car, which Jazz was... not really. Well, which Jazz was really not, but Crasher was done in that style. So I thought that'd be a great base because the vehicle mode matches up, and the robot mode could be, interpreted well enough. So that's what I did with a few paint applications. So I got the Ricochet figure, and I really actually quite liked it once I got it in hand. It's a decent figure. And it looks very aggressive. Like when you have this thing standing there and the head sculpt and the proportions of it, it looks really cool. I like it as Ricochet because he's supposed to be like a fast attack. And I think it suits him better than Jazz. I had no love for the character before, but looking into it now, I see, well, this character was called Stepper. It was exclusive to the Japanese market in the Headmaster series. It's in 1987. And then we got a version of it in North America when they, it was a Jazz redeco, of course. And then 17 years later, they did a reissue of it in Japan and North America at the same time. And then North America, they changed his name from Stepper to Ricochet, which I think is actually a better name. I prefer Ricochet. It feels like they have a hard time coming up with good names after the G1 era, but I like that one. Anyway, this was sort of you couldn't buy this in stores. It was one of the exclusive sort of things. So I got mine from BBTS and ordered that. And yeah, once I got him, I was reluctant to do it. But I figure, he's still there. I can always buy another one. So now that all that preamble and background is out of the way, I'll go through what I've done to customize it. So I just kind of kept it simple. It did occur to me to get a Jazz figure and then swap some of the parts out. Most notably, black shoulders on the Jazz would have been more accurate to Crasher. This is what she looks like. And of course, GoBots was great at doing good on-screen representations of what the toy actually looked like for the most part. So I didn't do, it's not exactly the same, but I kind of like the color breakup, so I didn't want to have too much black overwhelming, so I just left the shoulders as is. What I did first was I painted the feet black, and I painted black around the edge here. This is how the Jazz mold actually is. It doesn't have this all white or black or silver. I want this to be more faithful to, it's just supposed to be an accent there, right? The rest of the legs I left alone. The arms, I had to paint over the flames on the arms, so I just painted black over top of the entire doors there. And then I painted white here, white there, red here to cover the gold. And then red here, of course, and the headlights I painted in red to make them look like those red accents on Crasher. And then, of course, the most difficult part was the head. So I'm going to go back in time a bit and tell you how I did the head. Now, I want to show off the head before I finish assembling it here. because what I did is, this is just Ricochet's head, and I used a Dremel with a sanding tip to file off the kind of the crest here on the head and the little ear nub things sticking out. Those three pieces just got sanded down, and then I'm going to put this dome sort of thing on top. This is actually part of the cockpit canopy from a knockoff transformer that I got from Sir Toys, I think. And it's just part of, it's a knockoff of that. I think it's Dirge or Thrust. Yeah, I think it's the Thrust from the movie line. It's the one where the canopy opens up and the head comes out and then the nose cone sticks out. It's kind of a strange, but it's an interesting one because the head comes out of the cockpit, but it's a weird looking mold. Anyway, once I get that on there, that's going to cover up a bit of the face, might make it harder to see. So I'll show you that now. This is just going to get super glued on, painted black. But for the face, what I didn't have any good pink paint, so I just used this nail polish and put it on with a brush. It didn't work out super great, honestly, but that's okay. And then just some gold testers to dot the eyes and some purple metallic testers. It was the closest thing I had to a darker pink. I don't really have a lot of these colors. I didn't want to buy any new paints, so that came out okay. Yeah, so to make it look like Crasher, I painted the visor black underneath and then dabbed on these eyeballs with gold. Can this focus? Let's see. Yeah, so it didn't come out too badly considering my mediocre painting skills. This is a handy tool. It looks like a brush, but on the end it just has a metal tip. Really good for putting little tiny detailed dots and things like that. So that worked out nicely. With my other GoBots customs, I printed out the face from a cartoon snapshot and then just stuck it on top. I was going to do that with Crasher too, but I think this might be good enough. We'll see how it turns out in the end, though. Right, so now that the head is glued on and finished painting, that's what it looks like. This is to represent that little canopy over top. I think it looks pretty good. So let's get her transformed into Le Mans race car mode. And you can still transform it with this head on. So this pops up. Again, it suffers a bit because of the gimmick, but not too badly. You can see I did some painting here. So yeah, the head does fit down through as long as this chest is out of the way. Actually, maybe I flip this up first. Did I? No. I'm sure this fit before I've done it. Oh yeah, I had to turn their head around. This flips up. You can see I've just painted this panel here because Crasher has a red stripe down the middle. Crasher has a red stripe all the way down the middle of the hood, but I couldn't do that, of course, to keep the black here and this part that folds underneath to become the abdomen. So I just painted that part. And, oops. Oh, no. What happened here? Oh, that's just come out of the hinge. No problem. That's easily fixed. Just have to make sure the hood gets under the windshield there and then tabs in. And then you can see here that I painted the top of this hinge because I didn't like that white piece. Well, I'll talk about the car once I finish transforming it. Let's fold this in here. Now the paint does make the feet a bit tight, but not too bad. Difficult when you have to unfold the inside of the leg because this really gets in the way of tabbing them together and tucking them in. So kind of have to do a few motions at the same time, and that's come off the hinge, but I'm probably doing it wrong. Tab these arms into the torso there. And then just tab, 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 squish it together. Oof. Yeah, that looks pretty close. All right. And there she is in vehicle mode. It still rolls. So you can see the head here would be the concern, right? But it does fit underneath the body just fine. And it still rolls. I think it looks pretty nice in vehicle mode. So again, I painted the doors black here. I had to paint the whole hood black for the most part to get rid of the flames. I did not paint this part, but I probably should have, and I did not paint this part. The black I have is a gloss black, and it's close enough. Now, one thing that really bothered me is that they had these white hinges. Oh, and some of that paint has scratched off, unfortunately, during transformation. But I painted those black because they were white. I mean, why would you want these two white rectangles there? They could have easily made this whole hinge a black plastic piece, and I don't know why Hasbro does stuff like this. It's a huge goof, if you ask me. I mean, in robot mode, you don't need that to be white. That could just as easily be black. It really bothers me when they do things like that. And then the same thing with this. This was white. Why would you want a big white section on the top of the car? Just, it should be black. So I painted it black. And yeah, the red headlights. This was gold, so I just put red on top of it. And I sort of started to paint these taillights, but I didn't finish the orange. I forgot about that. And then I didn't trust myself to paint a straight white stripe across the side here, so I used some very thin red tape that I had, and I think it looks good enough. Once I get an airbrush, I'll be able to do, you know, nicer striping. Now, things I did not paint, obviously, are the wheels. I would like to paint those like a silver, or I don't know, anything else, I guess. But I just, again, I didn't trust myself to paint it in there with, you know, in a circle and get that proper. I also didn't trust myself. Oh, my light needs to be changed. I also didn't trust myself with this part because, I mean, you know, I would have to freehand it, and I just don't know how I could do that. So there's a couple of gold accents left in there. I don't like them being there, but I don't know. Not too big a deal. And so there is Crasher in car mode. And I think that looks pretty close, right? I think that looks like her GoBot representation of Crasher. So I'm happy with it. Again, a lot of my customs are just quick and, you know, maybe a bit lazy, on the lazy side, but they get the job done, and I don't have a lot of time to put into it. If I had the time and the equipment, I could make this look better, but I think it's fine. It's good enough for my shelf, and it's just a, you know, it's just a deluxe figure. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with this mold, actually, so I may go ahead and pick up another Ricochet. Yeah, so there she is. I would like to get a number 1. If I can find a nice number 1 sticker, I'll put that right here. And I think I gotta fix that light. Anyway, that's Crasher. I'm going to end the video here before my lighting fails on me. So, thanks for watching.